Hey, good evening, everyone. What a great crowd. I thought I was coming to some sedate reception and dinner. This is like a rally here. This is fantastic. And it couldn't be for a better cause and a better organization. I want to just begin by thanking all of you for supporting LCV. What Kathleen said was right. LCV was a major part of my electoral win into the Senate in 2012. I was a full-time Senate candidate for 19 months, 19-month full-time campaign. The Washington Post did a survey every month. They would list the 10 closest Senate races in the United States. For 17 of the 19 months, my race was the closest of the 10. It was a tough, challenging race. We had more outside money spent against me than anybody in the United States in 2012 other than President Obama. And it was tough. And I needed help. And I needed the LCV, and LCV came through in a magnificent way. And I'm standing here just as one because there were so many others who were in exactly the same place as I was in 2012. And the LCV, through a smart strategy of ads, but also grassroots activism, was ultimately the thing that was so powerful, helped me win. And that race that was so close up until October 1 became a 250,000 vote margin by Election Day. Give yourselves a round of applause because you guys really made it happen. But you know, I'm not here just to say thanks. I'm here because I share in common the value that animates you to be part of this great organization. I worked with LCV when I was governor of Virginia. We have a great state chapter of LCV, and it was a treat to then, got some Virginia LCVers here. I like. And now I'm excited to work on policy issues in Virginia. And let me talk about Virginia. Virginia is a coal state. Virginia is a state where 5 of our Southwest Virginia counties produce coal. Coal is a traditional industry that has been an important part of Virginia for a very, very long time. And so in Virginia, the stereotype would be that maybe it's not so easy to be out and be advocating for solutions to climate change with a group like LCV that is the best of the best in doing that advocacy. But Virginia's a lot of other things too. Virginia is also a state where our largest industry is ag and forestry. No industry is going to be affected as much, is being affected as much every day by changes in climate as ag and forestry. Virginia is a state that deeply cares about science. Everybody, boy, a pro-science. Now that is a really, clearly near the bar over there. You know, Virginia, and it was interesting getting into this race. One of the first discussions I had with the League of Conservation Voters, they were asking, you know, how are you going to approach some of these tough issues about climate, about the need to reduce carbon pollution? I'm saying, look, Virginians are pro-science people. The politician we most admire in Virginia was the preeminent scientist of his day, Thomas Jefferson. Virginians are not anti-science people. We're pro-science people. And from the very start of my race for Senate, it was very clear to me from polling that climate science denialism, and my opponent was a denier, and deniers can often be loud, but that was a position that just doesn't sell in Virginia. Virginians understand our climate is changing. Virginians understand that mankind is causing a significant amount of that change and that we need to do something about it. Now, obviously, there's complexities about what to do and when, but Virginians are not anti-science folks. They're pro-science folks. And LCV helped me work to explain what was at stake. But I'll tell you something else about Virginia. Not only are we ag and forestry, and not only are we pro-science, but Virginia has the community that, next to New Orleans, is the most vulnerable community in the United States to the effects of sea level rise. Hampton Roads, Portsmouth, Newport News, Hampton, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Chesapeake, other communities, 1.6 million people. The second largest metro area in Virginia, next to New Orleans, most vulnerable to sea level rise. Hampton Roads is the largest concentration of naval power in the world, and it's vulnerable. Let me tell you how vulnerable. Any of you guys been to Hampton Roads? Raise your hand if you've been to some of those communities. Okay, you know where I'm talking about. You know where I'm talking about. In Hampton Roads, the land is sinking before you get to climate issues, the land is sinking about 0.12 inches a year. So the projection, just based on the land sinking, is that between now and the early 2100s, sort of like 2102, we would see sea level rise just because the land is sinking of about 2.5 feet. Wow. But then what we're seeing is the dramatic escalation of that because of melting ice caps and sea level rise. If the sea level comes up just what it has been, it might be an additional foot. But scientists are now projecting that even if we take steps to mitigate climate change, the sea level rise by the early 2100s could be as much as 5 or 6 or even 8 feet in Hampton Roads. Okay, well, that's a projection. What does that mean to regular people? Well, I have friends in Portsmouth in Hampton Roads who bought homes in a historic neighborhood, pre-Civil War homes, 10 years ago. The entire neighborhood on the National Register of Historic Places is now unmarketable. You cannot sell your home because flooding is so frequent. There's a neighborhood in downtown Norfolk called The Hague. Beautiful neighborhood. They measure flooding in The Hague as tides come in. How many hours a year is a major intersection covered with water? Never before 1980 had there been more than 100 hours a year where that intersection had been covered with water. Now the average every year is 250 hours, and it's going up dramatically virtually every year. Here's the one that ought to scare those of us who are on the Armed Services Committee. And Virginia cares deeply, obviously, about our military mission. We have the largest naval base in the world, the Norfolk Naval Station. The largest naval base in the world. I got a son who is in the Marine Corps, who spends time on Navy bases. I got a nephew who's a naval intelligence officer who's stationed there. That Navy base is starting, the road that goes into that Navy base that brings in thousands of people every day is starting to get flooded just because of the natural tidal action. And the estimate is, with sea level rise by 2040, which isn't that long, folks. Most of us will still be around and we'll still be working at LCV in 2040, right? By 2040, the main road into America's main naval base, which is the largest naval base in the world, will be covered on average 3 hours a day and impassable. Just because of normal tidal action, forget about storms. That'll have an additional burden. This challenge that we see in Virginia is palpable and real. It's not a matter of what's going to happen in the future if we don't do something. We're seeing it happen in ag and forestry right now. We're seeing it happen in sea level rise right now. We're seeing it happening in other extreme events right now. And that's why I'm passionate about working with LCV to reduce greenhouse gases, to move us to a better energy future, to always be cleaner tomorrow than we are today, to be a leader in the world and not say, well, we're not going to act until every other country in the world acts. No, that's not who we are. We innovate and we lead and we create new technologies and innovations, and other countries buy those from us. They buy them from us. So look, I am no environmental hero like Henry Waxman, who I just see right here. Now this is a real honor. But I am a new senator from a southern state, a state that was recently a red state, a state that is a coal-producing state. My wife's from the coal-producing region of Virginia, and we have to find balanced solutions for that economy to thrive. But those of us from red states, those of us from coal states, we've got to be passionate about climate change. And that's why I took the floor during that all-night filibuster, and I got up and said this. I said, look, I started to not like the phrase all of the above energy policy. And I said, the reason I don't like the phrase all the above is that all of the above reminds me of when I ask my kids something and they say, whatever. I hate that. I hate that whatever. When my kids say it, I think they're trying to convey, hey, Dad, I'm easy to work with. But whatever sounds so indifferent, and we can't be indifferent to this crisis. And the League of Conservation Voters is at the very tip of the spear in making sure that Americans, and especially those of us who serve in Congress, cannot be indifferent about the need for solutions. Thank you for supporting this great organization, and thanks for supporting me.